What you're seeing here right now is Age of Charlemagne in the Grand Campaign for Total War Attila. And all I have to say is I've had an immense amount of fun playing this mod. And my humble intention is to basically say to you guys, hey everybody, have a look at what this mod delivers. Now of course, one could say, but this is just a mod that has imported a lot of Age of Charlemagne's units into the Grand Campaign, which is what this mod does. That is what this mod is supposed to do. It is a fantastic mod. And here's the thing about this mod that I really enjoyed. That this mod somehow feels as if this is what Age of Charlemagne should have been. Now when I played it, I really wished Age of Charlemagne had expanded to Byzantium. It had a bit more landmass, just a little bit more. And the Grand Campaign fills it in bucket loads. The one disadvantage is that sometimes the Grand Campaign can feel a bit small. That it can feel that the provinces are smaller. And I really do enjoy this classic take, because it reminds me of the old Rome 1 mods that were there for, let's say, Rome 2 Total War. And this is a great move. I think even Thrones of Britannia should be imported into this great, fantastic mod as well. And why shouldn't it? It's a mod that says, look, I'm going to give you the chance to play Age of Charlemagne onto this. And it feels great. If I were to give any other disadvantages, is that the campaign does run and feel like vanilla. It doesn't provide enough options. I do feel that if you play, let's say, the Abbasid Caliphate, or if you play, let's say, the Roman Empire, money is difficult sometimes to come by, but in some cases it won't be. If you play the Byzantines or if you play the Abbasids, money is very easy to come by, which is what it should be. If you're playing the Byzantines, especially under Leo, you have a lot of financial difficulties, because right now it just feels like you're recruiting a whole bunch of units and you're fighting left, right and center. There's a reason the Byzantine Empire is weak. And there's a reason why the Abbasid Caliphate is slowly expanding into Europe. Why its resources are so, infinite as compared to the weakening Byzantine grip. And we also have so many competing factions. I really do think that this should have been not only a DLC, it should have been part of the main game. Because Age of Charlemagne is a great campaign, if you look at it in depth in one way or the other. And the units do look good. In some way, it's reminded me of Age of Empires, where you have these brightly colored soldiers, and you know that these are the Byzantines, and these are the, let's say, the Abbasids. Although I would give the Abbasids a different color, I don't feel grey suits them too much, or white suits them too much. I think a little more traditional colors of maybe yellow and gold, I think that would be much more appropriate. And I was playing as the Abbasids, and you can see from this footage that I played that I was having a great time playing as the Abbasids. I was crushing the Byzantines left, right and center. They were getting crushed. I was building and expanding my empire. My provinces were rich. I was on the cusp of bringing the glory of Islam into, let's say, Asia and to Europe and to all the other nations that are there. Because that's what the Abbasids were doing. The Abbasid Empire was so powerful that it had all the richest culture, everything. I mean, the city of Baghdad was so great. And if you look here, you can see that I tried as the Lombards to go and attack these Romans. That was basically the Papal States. And somehow my attack did succeed in the end, but they took a lot of casualties. And here's the thing. This mod makes it so effortless, it makes you want to replay the Attila Grand Campaign in so many different ways. Even though it's the same campaign, it's the same thing, yet I'm still feeling that, wow, this feels like a completely fresh and new campaign. I would say that I do want a bit more changes to the campaign. I do want that the other factions feel different, because right now it kind of plays the same. Now I'm not expecting it to be like different changes, but what I am expecting is if I play the Abbasids, they should have more unique strengths, because you can go into the faction screen and see that this war, the Abbasids and the Byzantines, it's a really tough fight. I do want a more historically accurate sub-mod that would change the Age of Charlemagne units, because right now they look a bit too vanilla. And there's some really fantastic mods on the Steam Workshop that do actually change the way Age of Charlemagne units look. And I would like an actual submod that would do this. And also, I tried fighting as the Lombards, trying to fight the Papal States, and they were tough. The Papal States were unforgiving. They would not let me win this battle. And it was so tough, I played as the Lombards. I tried to flank them, outflank them. I tried to make sure that I could get there in the end, but I didn't. They just kept on crushing me, and they wouldn't let me win this battle. Do you know how depressing that feels sometimes? When you're playing as the Lombards, when you're the rulers of Rome, and guess what? You got the Papal State in front of you. And that's what this mod is. It brings me back to saying, wow, this is what I remember Total War being, in one way or the other, when there was a lot more historical content back then. At the same time, I was just having a gala time, but it was not easy playing as the Abbasids against the Byzantines, because one day I would be having a separatist civil war, the other day I would be having famines and revolts, the other day I would be, let's say, looting across Asia Minor, and then the Byzantines send their forces against me, and they are just stopping me. But do you see that even this battle here shows how bright Attila can be? Right in the sense that it's not dark, it's not saturated. You can clearly see the colors. You can clearly see the passion with which this mod was brought to life. The passion with which modders have transformed Total War into such a great area. And I'm telling you, this is truly worth your time. And I've only just played the Abbasids and the Byzantines, but there's a ton of other factions. You can play as the Kaganates. You can play so much more in this mod. I know that people will say, oh, it's just a simple mod. Oh, well, what does it do? It makes you play Age of Charlemagne in this grand campaign. It lets you play those factions to a great extent. My other thing is, I'm not sure that within this mod whether we do have the Age of Charlemagne dilemmas. Everything about this mod proves that you need to try it out. The battles look great, it's classic Attila, and it feels like a fresh and brand new campaign. And you can fight in some of the most epic battles known to mankind, and there's plenty of sub-mods to make your battles even more immersive. What I'm showing you here is nothing. What I'm using in my mod list is different. And I also did try to burn the city, but that didn't make any sense. And diplomacy is more or less the same. But it is a fantastic experience, and I for one have had so much fun playing this fantastic mod. I tried to play as the Vikings, I tried to attack England, I did auto-resolve, and that completely messed up my campaign. Never ever do it. That's all I would say. And then, of course, I was kicked out. So now I see the reason why the Vikings never really truly penetrated into England until they had adequate forces. And right now I'm going to be showing you one of the most epic battles fought in this mod. You will see that when I fought against this AI, it was charging me in such a classic formation that I was like, wow, this is what the AI should be. Now I'm not going to say anything, I'm going to let you witness the battle. And do let me know what you thought of how I managed to fight it, because it wasn't easy. This is more or less a montage. that actually the residents of Rome lived like this. All the Roman buildings were falling into disrepair or was being built into new churches. And then, as you could see, you could wonder that many of the Romans living within the city actually must have thought that what was our city once upon a time. And this is so real. It feels like the fall of Rome, because Rome isn't collapsing from raiders. Well, it was sacked quite a lot, but it was also being sacked by its own people, because its own people are just not worshipping the old gods anymore. And you can see that actually in this palace here, this palace would have been empty. It would have been sacked and emptied a long time ago, maybe during the sack of Rome by the Visigoths or by other factions. I suppose this mod does one thing right, that it wants to show that the Gothic emperors, or well, whatever ruled Rome at the time, wanted to preserve Roman architecture and culture. It was, in one way, the barbarians didn't destroy Rome, Rome destroyed itself from within. And there's a fantastic channel called Marianus, who I shall give footage right now just to showcase the great content that he produces.
Price to the elements. Earthquakes would damage buildings from time to time, and now of course nothing was ever repaired or restored. Collapsed columns were left lying on the ground, collapsed temples and other ancient monuments not restored. The building materials even collected and looted to build new buildings. The outlying parts of the city were by now completely abandoned and given price to decay. The remaining 30,000 people were now living in the area of the old Campus Martius and the Forum Boarium. The Forum Romanum saw its last building activity with the Column of Phocas in AD 608 in honor of the Eastern Roman usurper Phocas, who reigned in that time in Constantinople. A very strange honor, as this emperor was not a really friendly guy. However, it is believed that the column was not newly built, but that a collapsed column of the Imperial Forum was just re-erected and a statue of Phocas put on top. And already that must have represented a Herculean act in this age of decay. But already by that time, the Forum Romanum must have offered a quite sad picture. It was still maintained in the early 6th century under Theodoric, so much so that in AD 500 the African monk Fulgentius, upon seeing the Roman Forum, had exclaimed, "How magnificent must the heavenly Jerusalem be when the earthly Rome shines so brightly." But 100 years later, after the disasters of the Gothic Wars, the Forum was not kept in repair anymore. The buildings were crumbling. Vegetation was starting to overgrow the ground level and the buildings. The column of Phocas must have seemed like a parody amidst this growing decay. Not long afterwards, the Forum Romanum was given up, possibly after a big flooding of the Tiber in the first half of the 7th century.
And it sucks because, of course, Age of Charlemagne is set in a different time period. But it's also set when, if we assume that all Roman cities are just falling and the Roman cities are in disrepair, yes, but there are people living within these former ruins. There are people living within the ruins of Roman cities. That's something that's not talked about. Everybody assumes Rome is gone by the year 700 AD. No, the legacy of Rome still lives on to this day. Charlemagne himself declared himself Holy Roman Emperor because he saw himself as the heir to Rome itself. And it's so saddening to see how the Romans are actually living through this, because this is what Rome actually must have looked like back then. Rome actually did look like it had fallen into disrepair. And the Roman city is slowly going smaller and smaller and smaller. And you can see that there's the temple here that of course has been taken over. Everything is being taken over at this very point. So this is a fantastic mod. If this is what you want to see, historically accurate mechanics, if this is what you want to see in Age of Charlemagne, then be my guest. This is what this mod has delivered. It's a fantastic mod, and you would absolutely like it. Download this mod. Seriously, it made me feel playing vanilla a new experience. That's all I will say. I've had a fantastic time playing this mod, and I'm sure you will as well. So in the meanwhile, let us lament over the legacy of Rome itself. Don't forget to leave a like, share, comment and subscribe, and I will see you on the next Total War video. Never ever do this like this. Never ever do it. That's all I would say. And then of course I was kicked out, so now I see the reason why the Vikings never really truly penetrated into England until they had adequate forces. And this battle that I was just talking about here, this was an impressive battle. You can see the Lombards are fighting against these Papal states, and the way the Papal states are coming, I don't know if this was an AI deployment, but the way they were coming in such an organized formation, I was like, wow, this is how Total War battle should be. This is how the AI should actually advance. And they charging headlong into me. My catapults are firing, there's cavalry charging, I form phalanx, and still they're charging at me. And dear me, I forgot that I had cavalry, and the Lombards had to hold the line, and they're holding really well. But of course, as you will see within a couple of minutes, they will break. And when they break, that is the circle mob that you see over there. And that was not a great time. You can see here that I attacked Rome as the Lombards, and then I was surprised that actually... And by the way, I will put instantly Marianus' channel that describes the entire history of the fall of the Roman Empire. His videos are some of the best if you are a fan of Roman history. And go ahead and subscribe to it.